We're broadcasting live from the Sydney studios in Australia, of all places. We're in the chat room at freedomslips.com. You could be there too. You can listen from there also. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out shinysideout.net for our show archives, notes, and links we paste into the chat during the show. Revolution Radio, that's what we're on. Revolution Radio is on air, online, and on your smart device. If you live in Kentucky, you can tune in on FM. Find WZZR 101.3. I said it right this time. Or get an app, because people go, what's a Z? What do you mean Z? Isn't that a guy's name? Or you can get an app, Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, StreamFinder.com, Internet-Radio.com, Radio Tuner, or you can get our app, Shiny Side Out. Check it out. It's pretty cool. It's got news, a whole bunch of stuff in there. You like it. You can listen to the station even though we're not on air. It has a listening portal. It's pretty cool. At home, you can purchase a Grace tabletop digital radio, and you can pick up Revolution Radio through that. Or if you're driving around in your General Motors vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. That's a type of radio, receiver-enabled radio. All of these things, except for the FM bit, are revolutions in radio. I really like it. Buy a CD of our 2014 season for $30 from the station's website, or donate and receive in return for your donation a USB stick with a whole bunch of survival documents, or 75,000 seed pack. Follow the instructions when donating. It's really important that you do that. If you are in the US of A, not just the USA, but of A, you can call in on 347-688-2902, or if you are anywhere else in the entire universe and you've got Skype working, there's a joke in that, it went offline last weekend, you can add Freedom Screen, all one word. You know what, Maggie, if you didn't catch it, Solaris had a great show.
Of course you did.
Again. Today she had, and I say that lovingly because she's awesome, she had Dan Willis and they're talking about disclosure. Jeez, it was good. And if you're hearing the word Solaris for the first time, go to freedomslips.com. So if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening...
But you really have to move the rock under which you've been living. You know, it's a very heavy rock, very, very big rock under you haven't heard of her.
Yeah, completely.
Clearly
you've been living under a rock or in a cave, you hermit. Good on you.
Could be. That's right.
All I'll suggest to you is she has great guests and great topics. You really need to go to the archives of Revolution Radio and listen to her back catalogue. It's awesome. All right. Now, Meki, this is show 187.
780 and 100. That's right. We are soldering, as it were. We're soldering along. That's right. And just one more thing there for Solaris. She has a fascinating background story. She's not just a very talented host here. No.
That's true.
Her story. Her story in itself is worthwhile investigating, guys, and looking into. And she's released some documentaries and books and such. So you might want to have a look at that as well. Not just the shows. There's more to her than just the shows. She's an onion. You peel away each layer, and there's more layers. And and you never really get to the. Dave, you never get to the center of the onion because you cry. You cry so much, and then, you laugh and you cry. But the center of the onion is never revealed. I'm not talking about Solaris now. I'm talking about an actual onion, right? I've never actually come to the center of an onion.
See, I don't know where. I think I fell off the bandwagon halfway through that because I thought we were still talking about Solaris. I thought, I know.
As complex.
As complex as an onion, I know. I got the metaphor. But the thing about Solaris is I started to question whether I know the true Solaris. Have I gotten to the core Solaris yet? We talk off air, and I think she's lovely. She has a great show, lovely person. But I would not have liked to have had to have gone through some of the things that she's been through with the psychotronic programming and handlers and boy, you really want to listen to her. Look, we interviewed her on show 100. So if you can't get the archives and you're only on YouTube, look for show 100. All right, and you'll get also a deeper view into
one thing,
her
though,
life.
Can you ever really know anybody unless you've met them face to face? And I'm still trying to align my calendar so when I travel to the States, I can get to meet Solaris there. That's that'd be my ambition. And in fact, Nighthawk and Gerber and all the other guys, because I've been to the States now probably 5 or 6 times without having gone to any of those guys.
Yeah, but you have a very tight schedule when you're traveling, so that's tough for you. And one of my friends said that he's going in January, and can I go? And I was like, no, I can't. I've got a lot longer leeway in being able to plan something. I need a lot more lead time than that. And it's a shame because every time we see Hawks Fest come and go, I see the pictures and some of the YouTube clips. Oh, I'm so jealous, Meki. All the friends of mine on Facebook, show fans and other hosts and some of the professionals that we have as interviewees that come on the show. I'm jealous. We don't get to meet them face to face, and a lot of our contemporaries, Meki, are meeting these guys face to face and doing interviews with them. And one day, I think we can. I'm looking forward to it one day.
I'm not even peeling an onion. No, look, I'm hoping. I really am. I'm hoping so. Having said that, things are looking up. So we are taking certain steps to secure a future development of that nature, I think.
Yes.
And thank you, Solaris. You just said we can come and visit her in her home state. That would be fantastic. That'd be great. Thank you very much, Solaris. Appreciate that. And it's look, we have things on the boil. That's all we can say at this point, because you know what, I don't want to jinx it, right, Dave? So
there's no jinxing. There will be no jinxing. This is without jinx.
Yes, correct. It's jinx free, as it were.
Free without jinx. Okay. So Meki, news. How are you and your family and everything going on? What's the news in your neck of the woods?
Oh, look, we actually had a nice day today. There's a bit of sun coming out, which is great. Hate these winter colds that my girls seem to have at the moment. So my older one, she's a bit sniffly, and it's never fun when you have 2 under 2 and they're having a bit of a cold. Otherwise, everything is well. Work is going. Work is work, as they say. And we're coming to the festive season. It's only a few months. I'm actually really looking forward to Halloween this year. I know it's not really an Australian holiday, but I always carve the pumpkins, believe it or not. And I do it for all the kids in the family, the nephews, the nieces, and whatnot, cousins. And then probably have 8 or 9 pumpkins this year.
Wow.
Everything is good here. So what about where you are in Narara?
How's Narara? Not feeling well. Not feeling well this week. I've been off work for a couple of days. Not feeling well. I've had to do the antibiotics. I've got a viral infection. It's not good. Don't know why. Just one of those things. And when I started to tell my friends about, you just post something and they go, oh yeah, all my friends have got the same thing. So it's a viral throat thing that makes you woozy, achy, you don't know what's going on. Very tough to get through it. And this is the first day, Meki, of all those days that I've actually been able to have a coffee. I haven't really looked at computer screens or anything. It made you woozy.
Oh wow! Look, just on that, Dave. Though I've noticed this particular winter season, and guys, we're just coming out of winter here in Australia. We've got the reverse seasons to the northern hemisphere, so we're just coming into spring. I noticed, and this is completely non-scientific. It's completely anecdotal. But I've noticed that this winter it was a lot worse with flus and colds and such. I never really get sick. I'm pretty sturdy that way. But almost everybody I knew, and in fact everybody I knew who had taken the flu shot, right, it got sick. But a lot of people got sick. We had people off work for a number of days, and in some cases even a couple of weeks. So I don't know what it is, Dave. Something is in the air. Are they spraying us with something? Are they putting something in the water? I don't know. I do know this particular winter season was very, very bad as far as people being sick was concerned.
Look, I know we have a tinfoil hat show, and it doesn't really matter Yeah, sorry, Jeb. I know Meki's audio is breaking up a little before.
Oh, is it really?
No,
Sorry.
it was breaking up a little before. It seems much better now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, could you just imagine? Tinfoil hat time, right? Could you imagine if, because they're making compulsory flu shots now globally. In America, they're trying to make it so there's
what happens if you
no
don't take it?
religious
What happens to you?
choice, no choices at all. Just you get it done, and that's all there is to it. Be quiet. That's the government, right? Could you imagine if they're trying to prep us to go to another country, another planet? Just imagine it for a minute, just for 1 minute. If they've got to cram us all, just for all the doomsdays out there, imagine if for some reason they've built these big arcs, let's call them arcs, and they're going to stuff us all inside those and take us somewhere else because the time bomb's ticking or whatever it is. Just imagine. Just bear with me. Their true goal is either to acclimatize us in advance of the planet we're going to, or it's so that we'll not suffer greatly when we're in a confined space with each other. Huh?
Maybe.
Because
I like where you're going. Keep going. Yeah.
I think at the moment we're actually pretty far apart, and the contact we have with each other is, if you have children, it's usually 1 to 10 multiplier, because they get sick, you get sick. But at going to work, it's really not. You don't have that close a contact with people, so the spread of a virus, unless you're on public transport, is and that includes paid flights and things like that, as Meki's mentioned in the past. I think that's actually quite low. So just think it. I mean, I think maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be the last thing they'll tell you. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're not going to tell you that they're doing any of this for any reason at all, except for you've got to have them, because they've made it compulsory here now, and you don't get your payments, and your children won't be allowed to go to school, and they're abandoning all the religious reasons and only keeping medical reasons for it. Because recently there's a 2-year-old who passed away after having 13 of them administered in the same session. And that's just bad practice. That's bad process, not bad
criminal
vaccine.
Yeah.
You can argue offline with me about vaccines, everybody. I know that we got close to getting rid of polio, and it's sort of back again because of, not everyone on the planet was vaccinated. But there are a lot of things out there that I don't know. I sort of play devil's advocate on this. I've been vaccinated. I've had all my shots. I've got the flu shot from this year, and but I know that it's like, Meki, imagine this: you've got an antivirus running on your computer. If you're in the PC world, 12% market share, Apple, good on you. Just had to put it out there because it comes up at every virus conference. That's what it comes up as. Imagine if you are only protecting yourself from 3 of the viruses that were in the previous hemisphere. Sorry, the previous season's opposite hemisphere, if that makes sense. So if you're in the southern hemisphere, the 3 big viruses that hit the northern hemisphere, you'd be inoculated against. That's it. It's pretty slim you're going to encounter them, and yet they still do this, and it's still something that we do. So if I had to point to that, it's lost due to my illness. Sorry about that.
No, I like your ramblings.
Yeah,
very informative.
Thanks, I ramble away, Mickey. Your turn.
But Dave is saying that vaccination, like everything else in life, is neither good nor bad. I mean, it depends how it is, how the practitioner uses it. It depends how the vaccine was created. It depends on a whole bunch of factors. I do believe
whether
vaccines are being used for. Sorry, go ahead.
Whether it's been refrigerated correctly.
Yes, correct.
Okay, because that can be bad.
Yeah, but this is another thing. What we've walked away from are the serums, though. So we should maybe rediscover serums. In fact, if we had a healthier lifestyle, we wouldn't get as sick as we do these days, right?
No,
but
true.
I mean, do vaccines have a place in the modern world? Well, they do. The interesting thing is this, especially MMR. which is a bit of a worry for myself because I have young kids as well. But in Germany, these are administered separately. It is the incidences of autism in Germany are very low, very low. Okay, and the incidences in Australia aren't too bad either. It seems to be America for the most part, and the UK to some extent, that is being hit by this autism epidemic, if we want to call it that. And I'm sure that the vaccines have a role to play in that, specifically MMR. But I'm not an anti-vacciner per se, because it's difficult to do that unless you're truly off the grid, Dave, right?
Completely. And you'd have to have zero contact with people.
Well, yeah.
As well.
Right.
And I don't think I'm in a position with my family to warrant doing it. I just don't think that I'm prepared to make that choice with my family. I know we've talked about it, but yeah, not so much. At the moment in Australia, to lose the right to send your children to school, just to be indoctrinated into the whole, wage debt slavery, at the moment we're choosing that because that's what there is and that's the game we're playing. So, if we miss out on that, I don't have the time to homeschool. If we had one parent at home full time, we could afford it, maybe quite possibly. But then, of course, as in America, you become a threat to society. Homeschooling, you get on some list and you become a bad person just because you've chosen maybe to do the right thing. Because they lose the control over your children. And it's getting quite off topic. but that's the only time. If I lived in a hippie commune, I don't think I'd be anywhere near a vaccine. Or fluoride, for that matter.
That's true.
I'm not going to get Meki started. So, Meki, the fake 28th impact.
Yeah.
NASA.
Go on.
NASA is bleeping. Or what does a goat do? It doesn't bleep. What's a goat sound?
Bleats?
Bleats.
Does it bleat?
Yes, bleat.
It bleats.
Thank you.
There you go.
NASA
right.
is bleating every single second it can that there is no asteroid threatening Earth. So for all of those people who believe never a straight answer, or NASA, good for you. If you don't believe them, then I'm sure you're going to be safely tucked in a fetal position waiting for the impact. Whichever way it goes, hopefully we'll see you next week for another showing that out. But if not, you were right. Good for you.
Yes, and we're wrong.
And we're wrong, and I'm okay to be wrong. And NASA just lied anyway, which I'm sure we all aware that they probably do that. But Meki, one thing that this drip of information we always hear about, disclosure we talked about in the last show. NASA is about to make an announcement to do with Mars. Now, it could be that they've found liquid water, or they're about to tell us that liquid water exists, or that they've found some kind of microbial life, or something. Not just proof of it. Not like, we found a fossil in a rock that we can't really prove came from Mars. We'll say it has, but we found it on Earth. Where'd you find it? On Mars? No, we found it on Earth. Then how'd you know it came from Mars? Tell me. Go on. Since at the time when they announced that, they didn't have any way of proving that it came from Mars, but we just say it did.
But there was a stamp on it though, made on Mars.
Oh,
right?
that's what it had. Yes. You see, because I think that was one of those things that let the cat out of the bag. So, to me, that said they've got jump rooms. Jump rooms exist because, or Buzz and what's his name went there instead of the moon, and all they did was put a black and white filter on the lens, make it black and white. Because I forwarded Meki a video this week and it showed an astronaut, and he says, well, Buzz wants to go back to Mars. What do you mean back to Mars?
Slip.
Yep. He says it twice in the interview too. And I just think that's extraordinary. So were we lied to originally and they never went to the moon at all?
Bypass the moon to get to Mars. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, they had a lot of trips. Maybe one of them went to the moon, and the others went to Mars.
Yep.
You know, because that in that same video that I keep watching, and I've watched over and over again, they talk about not astronauts not being able to go through the Van Allen belt. So how do they go anywhere? So maybe jump rooms are real. Maybe they've been there. Maybe they collected some rocks and then had to sort of make up stories about how they got this, how they know the rock is from Mars. But that's what NASA's doing. They're making an announcement this week, and it's going to, maybe it's Monday or Tuesday, and they're going to talk about what they found.
No, just on that, Dave, I think that hyperdimensional travel is very much a reality. The jump rooms and so forth, and the shortest distance between point A and B is not a straight line; it's nothing, right? That's my opinion. And if we look at certain phenomena like the Skinwalker Ranch and whatever, where you have this massive bull, like this bull. Several tons of cow, if you will, in the shed, which the shed would have had to be built around the bull in order to get the bull in there. Couldn't even fit through the doors, yet there it was. So it had to somehow move into the shed through the intervening space without actually going through the door, for example, right? And so I'm completely with you on this whole jump room concept and hyperdimensional travel, which is much more elegant. Think about it, right? Than having a whole bunch of booster rockets flying through space.
Oh. The energy, you think about the energy you'd have to expel to get there. I sort of lean pretty heavily on there being some kind of jump room thing. I'm getting a little lost now, because did they go to the moon? Did they not go to the moon? I think they had to put the reflectors on. The stories and over stories, and then what becomes real and not real. Mekki, I watched as the CBS News presenter this week talking about how mainstream media condition us to believe one thing or the other. They condition us to believe war is good today, or war is bad tomorrow, or yesterday, or whether it's okay to have people seeking asylum, to ignore the cause of it. It's honestly, I thought it best, and I posted this for all the people on Facebook. I posted this week saying, look, hey, it's better to come from this person than me. If you don't believe me ranting on every time we meet about this, about being conditioned by the media, you listen to this lady. She worked in it for 30 years or something.
That's right.
And pulled stories. Mekki and I have talked about this verbatim. But Mekki, I wanted you to talk about this one. This is really cool. They announced that they found fossil records in North America of bones 50,000 years old.
I know. Well, look, that's it in a nutshell. So they have human occupation or colonization of the Americas, reaching back 50,000 years, not 10 or 12,000 years like is commonly accepted, or even 20,000 years like that lady who used to be quite the archaeologist is now a florist, also posited. No, 50,000 years. So again, the key message to take away from this is our date posts, our gates are changing consistently and constantly. Okay, that's the only true constant is change when it comes to scientific discovery, and that's especially true for archaeology and the human development and human evolution, if you believe in that as well. And it is. I don't think the last word has been spoken quite yet. We are almost. I think monthly, certainly, it feels like it, discovering new species of humans. Or human. I'm not talking about hominids or forerunners or Homo erectus or Homo habilis. No. I'm talking about members of our very own, like cousins, if you will, of our own very own family, like Neanderthal, right, and Homo fiorensis they found in in Papua New Guinea. So Dave, the key thing here is clearly that science is catching up with what we've been saying all along, and not just us clearly, but researchers that have done this work now for almost well over 200 years. If you look at the people that have been digging up artifacts in mines and such that just don't fit, they can't be there. These tools shouldn't be there. And Graham Hancock is certainly one of the great researchers. There are others as well, certainly. But clearly.
They're the parts, aren't they? The out of place artifacts that they find, and we've heard that they've been destroyed a whole bunch of artifacts because they don't want them to come out.
Yep. That's I think that's criminal. I can't believe that nobody has gone to jail for that. But hey, what can I say?
What can you do?
Punish people. They punish people for posting downloadable content harsher than they punish people accused of rape and murder. So it is okay to rape and murder, but it's not okay to download torrents. So that's the message for you as well, guys. Just in case you're wondering, that's the message. Okay, stay on message.
Do you know the Emmys were on, and Game of Thrones won a whole bunch of Emmys, and one of the things that I thought was interesting was that even the newscaster on the red carpet doing a live feed from the red carpet to a radio station here said the most illegally downloaded show.
Oh, is that right?
It's Game of Thrones in Australia, because we don't get it live. Like it's introduced, it's played in the US, and then we don't get it for a couple of days or a week or a month, or we're 6 months behind in the seasons. And it's to the disappointment of the fans here, because they're seeing media online about their show and they want to see it. So there it is online. I'll just download it. If only the people producing the shows made it available and charged a small fee, a small, insignificant fee, that they'd have another 20 million, people watching the show weekly, or however often the shows come out. It would just add to their revenue if they were to be able to make a way of being able to watch it. Otherwise, good luck to you, And I thought that was very, very funny that they nearly condoned it, and inside the industry recognise it.
Yes,
isn't that something? Inside their own industry, they recognise that it's the most illegally downloaded show on the planet, and standing ovations. It won 13 awards or something like that. Crazy.
It is.
I'm not saying it's a bad show.
Having said that,
yeah,
the industry has to change, and just very, very quickly, this is one of my pet peeves.
Mm-hmm.
The industry has to change. We have to move with the times. And Dave, you and I, and we've spoken about this before, we're the only generation that has seen technology come and go in our lifetime 8-10 times now.
That's right.
I had a record player.
Gone.
But now I don't. I had a CD player.
Gone.
And I still do, but not much.
Yeah.
I had a DVD player, but that's been replaced by a Blu-ray. Don't let me get started on the VHS stuff, right? And then I was CRTs, right? You had like a plethora of technologies that just came and went. Whoever owned the Sony Walkman? I mean, the ones where you put the tape in, right?
Me. I had a solar-powered one that cost $500.
Holy moly! Really?
Yeah, I bought it in the US when I was over there.
Okay.
And it was the best one ever. I never had to put batteries in the thing ever. It was solar powered, and it had a rechargeable battery within it, and you could, it was waterproof. It was yellow, and you could listen to it underwater. Wow,
that is pretty cool.
It was awesome. The best thing ever. Yeah, but they came and went. And now I've got more in my phone, I've got more storage available to me to put music that I could put almost every song ever made on it. If it was an MP3.
Yes.
That's something else.
Yes.
I know that the Meki come and going. If you don't keep your media up to date, it's gone. So everything you've got, I've seen backup tapes in the IT industry come and go. And now we're just using discs because it's cheaper.
Yep.
Tapes were cheaper, now it's disk storage. And now when you're talking about terabytes, where do you put that? Where do you keep 4 years of terabyte backups? I don't know.
Look, we're both in the industry, Dave and I, and I had recently been to talks for partners, storage vendors and compute vendors and such. They're talking petabytes now.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where we're going, petabytes and exabytes, in fact, and terabytes. I mean, I saw it. I saw a terabyte solid state drive at I think JB Hi-Fi. I'm sure it's Harvey Norman as well, or wherever, right? But I saw it there. I think $700 or $800. It'll come down to $200, $300 within 6 months. But that's a terabyte of solid state. I paid
Here
when
it
it first
comes.
came out 15 years ago for, I think it was 16 megabytes.
Yeah.
It was a little SD card, right? It cost me $180.
That's right.
$180. 16 megabytes. What are you going to do with that? Eh? You just nothing. You do nothing
Put a
with
song
it.
on it.
You put a song on it. That's right. It's Moore's law, Quinn Eskimo. That's right. That's exactly right.
But we've actually exceeded the point at which it can get smaller.
Yes. Well, yes.
That this week, remember how in our promo maker we talk about amazing discoveries in science? Well, this week they made the smallest wrench, and I'm saying that for our American friends, because it would be a spanner here. The smallest spanner or wrench in the world. And
I saw that.
How many nanometers?
Go on, yeah.
Two or three nanometers across.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
That's a small car you got to work on.
It's 2 microns thick. What? That's amazing. No, but I saw that as well. In fact, there was this thing going on Facebook. This I think it was from IFLS, which is I love science. The F, you can imagine what that stands for. But they had this clip of different things, and they had this injection of there was this syringe which injects whatever into cells. Right, like retrovirus or whatever, and then they showed it, and it was like the little injector, like needle point, was so much smaller than the actual cell. So we look at the cell here under like a microscope.
That's
and
right.
such.
You see this in vitro fertilization. Yeah.
It's fascinating. And then you like there's also this other thing they made, and this was tiny on the nanoscale. I think it was a little switch or something, right? They built, and this is like we're moving into true quantum computing. No, people say they have it. Well, I'm sure somebody does. We don't, but it's amazing stuff, guys. And light storage. We're now actually storing something in 3D. In holograms. We are now storing data, and we can store data in holograms. Yeah, right.
Took them a while.
I know, right? It's fast. But Dave, this is amazing stuff. But this is the thing. My point is though, the change is coming faster and faster, and with the change, more and more knowledge will come up, and there'll be armchair archaeologists. There'll be aerial archaeology as well, where we look at funny formations on the ground on other planets as well.
Yes.
Okay, we'll be going into analysis of different things. For example, when you go to depth sounding as well, that'll become available to us as well. So there's a range of things that armchair archaeologists, armchair scientists can now participate in, and just hook into it. I mean, it's virtually unlimited what you want to do. And look at the telescopes, how powerful they are for amateurs. He was a guest of ours, and I'm really ashamed, but I forgot his name. And he is an amateur archaeologist, astronomer, and he looks at the moon and such. And we had him on. I forget him now. I forgot his name, but he's also connected to Jose Escamilla and his documentaries. But the point is that you can be part of the scientific discovery again. Okay, for a long time the regular Joe was sort of out, but now you can once again become a part of it. And I think that's just brilliant, Dave. I really do.
Yeah, completely.
And what's happening in India?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. India has just announced that they're going to allow the development of free energy, to abandon. Just think about our previous prime ministers. Coal is good for everybody. Well, even India is saying we don't want any coal anymore. We want to liberate ourselves, like we've been suggesting for a long time, Mackie, you and I, away from non-renewables. And one of those things is free energy. So they've actually allowed it, and they're behind it all the way. Thinking about the technology that propels spacecraft, not ours, from the visitors, quite possibly, and that if there was going to be any kind of disclosure, the last thing that they'd want to do is let that get into anyone's hands, which seems to be like an amplifier for apparently, with nothing inside it. It just seems to amplify the space energy and allows them to derive energy from nothing. So the free energy devices, there's a lot being getting around. There's a lot on YouTube. And there's a lot of failed experiments on YouTube, more so than successful ones. And hopefully, Mackie, we're going to see the end of fossil fuels or non-renewables.
That would be a good day. That would be a very good day. And in fact, who wants to pay constantly ridiculous amounts of money for the fossil fuels? Battery. Which, by the way, they're not disappearing. Peak oil has proven to be a myth. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we found more and more deposits, but I would very much like to move away both from coal and from oil, so all the fossil fuels, and let's move into something renewable. Fusion would be great. Yeah, clean fusion, room temperature, that'd be nice. But we'll see where that goes.
Well, I just think the free energy thing is pretty cool. So I've seen the Lutech device. Some Australians made this thing that amplifies electricity like you can an audio signal. Mm-hmm. You can make something from very quiet to very loud. Well, they seem to have achieved that, and that was purchased by China. Their company was purchased by China. That disappeared. Never saw that again. And there's been some very interesting developments in that kind of field. And I know I'm trying to work on something at the moment, and I'd like to see that. But the saltwater car has been announced as well. It just runs on salt water. As a radio frequency goes through it, you can burn water, salt water, and remember it turns sodium burns, and the chlorine from sodium chloride, which is salt, that is clean, except it does make an oxide when it's burnt. And the water turns into water. That's funny. The water turns into water, and it assists in the separation of it, or something like that. And so anyway, so that's been developed and created and now released. Hopefully, we'll just see the pure water car. I'd like to see that, because a pure water car would mean you'd be able to burn pure water in your house, recycled, and it would be forever.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Because all the condensation just goes back into the system again. So, yep, I'm looking forward to a day when we don't have to, derive our electricity from coal burning. I think imagine the sudden stopping of pollutants all around the world. I think the Earth would just go, hey, what? Did they all die off? Did all the humans die off? Well, we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's my news this week.
And there's one item that was mentioned by Chindolo in the chat room. I'm going to quickly share it with you because it's interesting. This was something that was I think Pope was shown this in Philadelphia. It's a 9/11 memorial, and this is what it is. It's a piece of debris. And it's posted in the chat room already anyway. A piece of debris which has a part of a Bible stuck to it. So it's just a few legible words there. And this is what it says. A retaliation, and then it says, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist no evil. That ye resist not evil. But whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also." That's in case you didn't know that is the Sermon of the Mount that Jesus gave to, in a way, fish and bread. You're probably familiar with the story. And apparently that artifact was shown Pope Francis. I find this interesting because clearly no other cheek was turned. Quite the opposite. We take your cheeks and never give them back.
Smash them.
Smash the cheeks. It's interesting though. It's. I don't want to give it any deeper meaning other than. We all, none of us live like that, really, clearly. None of us live like we should. None of us are as forgiving as we should be, or as tolerant, as patient, as loving, as caring as we should. We are very quick to anger, though. We're very quick to be greedy and do all the wrong things. And that's partially due to the way we're brought up. And that's the way our system works. And it encourages that kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't encourage independent thinking. It doesn't encourage caring for others. In fact, Mother Teresa died very, very poor. Very poor. She didn't live in the splendor of Rome, in the papal palace. No, clearly not. She was helping the lepers in India. A person clearly that we can look up to, but that didn't make any money at all. Whereas people that make money, and there are lots of billionaires, right? And the Catholic Church certainly is amongst the billionaires there. They don't really do much for their fellow men and women or fellow human beings. Not really. I mean, there's some philanthropy, but ask yourself, how many palaces can you live in? How many 500-foot yachts can you sail at any one time? How many Lamborghini or Bugatti or maybe gold-plated Porsches can you drive at any one time? And the answer is one. Just one.
I'd like a Lamborghini. I've always dreamt of a Countach, but I've heard that they drive like rubbish. So the Murcielago, if there's anyone wanting to donate one, I'll take it. Thanks. I couldn't afford the registration or the insurance.
But having one, that's all right? And see, this is a sort of a little segue into today's topic.
I couldn't afford to drive it to the service
someone
station.
used today.
I couldn't afford to drive it to get petrol.
That's nothing, right? There you go. Or forget the insurance. But this is sort of a segue into today's topic. So we're on this wheel. We're spinning around. We seem to be doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome, which of course is the definition of insanity. Right? You do the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. Well, that's not really going to get you anywhere. And so today's topic is a lost show. It is show number 35. In fact, that we are redoing today and next time, because we know where we're going to get through this today. Mm-hmm. And it is about Deja Vu and Reincarnation. We grouped that together because they are linked, and then we're going to take you guys through that. But we are on a hamster wheel, right? We're going through around and round and round. And Deja Vu and, in fact, Reincarnation are some of the cornerstones of our overarching theory that we shared with you in show 100, and we will share with you yet again, updated and upgraded in show 200, only some 13 shows away, and this time maybe Dave and I can cohabitate the microphone in the one location, right? We haven't yet done a show together, guys. Okay, we are separated by illusionary space and illusionary time, nonetheless real enough when you sit in front of a computer, and we have not yet shared a microphone in the same room. I think that'll be a fun exercise for show 200. Maybe Dave, we can couple it with a little excursion into the wilderness. But be that as it may, so these are pillars for our theory. And what do we mean by that? Okay, so what we think, all of this around us is a bit of an illusion and a little bit of a cage, a prison, if you will. And Deja Vu is like they said in the Matrix, and I have to applaud them for actually coming to the party and saying that it's a flaw. It's a break in space-time, which allows you to experience past and even future events. So there were no time flow, unidirectional at least. And then reincarnation is also a cornerstone of the theory, because we believe that reincarnation is the mechanism by which we are kept here in this reality. We die, and then we're reborn. We don't have any chance to ascend or to go back home where we really belong, but we're kept here in an endless cycle of rebirth. And reincarnation, or the belief therein, is quite old. We will share with you as well that some of the world's religions that believed in reincarnation at some point, and some no longer do. But that's some of them. That's how they started out, and clearly there are others that still do. So Deja Vu and reincarnation really are the corners, or some of the cornerstones of the overarching theory that we have developed. The awareness cascade, you may remember. So Dave, we've done this. We did this before. We've done this before 152 shows ago.
Am I having deja vu right now?
Right, all over.
Nearly. Look, let me tell you. Everyone says, "What is it? What does deja vu mean?" Well, the term deja vu means literally already seen, and we'll give you a few examples a bit later on of what alternatives there are in the French term in French for other options to this. But literally means already seen. For those who have experienced the feeling, describe it as an overwhelming sense of familiarity with something that shouldn't be familiar at all, and that is the future. Say, for example, maybe you are having dinner with a group of friends and discussing current politics. Well, and you've suddenly, and if you're sitting there, you have a very strange feeling that you've already experienced that same thing. Same friends, same dinner, same topic. And as everyone that I've ever talked to about it says, then they start to get something from the future, the conversation of the future, an action just out of the room, maybe in the kitchen. And it's done very well on Groundhog Day, but it's the very same thing where you're not currently living in the moment. You're sort of picking up what happens in the future. So then you're back to normal. You've left that future of what's happening and you come back to the now, and you start to hear the conversation again. And this is now live conversation, and you know what's going to be said next. You know that the person in the kitchen is going to drop the spoon. I've even lent to my friend and said, this is really weird, man, I'm having deja vu. And then this person says, and then they say that. And the next person answers like this, and then they're dropping the spoon in the kitchen. And that's combined with a very strange feeling. I think it's that cross-time sensation you're getting.
Yeah, it's like you're almost one step removed from it all in a way, right? You're there, but you're not quite there. And I know exactly. I'll share with you guys after the break a very strong deja vu moment I had years ago. But let's let's keep going with this. And so as much as 70% of the population reports having experienced some form of deja vu. 70%. That's a high number. Okay, that's a very high number. And a high number of incidents occurs in people 15 to 25 years old, so more than in any other age group. So that's the highest number of incidents. And again, it's after puberty, maybe some changes in the brain. It's very, very, very odd, very strange. And 70% is significant. You talk to anybody who does statistics, if something happens to 70% of any population, that's a highly significant event. The psychologist Edward B. Titchener, in his book written in 1928, a textbook of psychology, explained deja vu as caused by a person having a brief glimpse of an object or situation before the brain has completed constructing a full conscious perception of the experience. Yeah. Such a partial perception then results in a false sense of familiarity. Now, having experienced deja vu, that doesn't really cut it for me. Right? It really doesn't. Because
it doesn't explain it at all.
Yeah, I'll explain to you later why it won't cut it for me. Now, the explanation that has mostly been accepted of deja vu recently is not that it is an act of precognition or prophecy, so there's no seeing the future here, but rather it is an anomaly of memory, giving the false impression that the experience is being recalled, right, rather than experienced. This explanation is supported by the fact that the sense of recollection at the time is strong in most cases, but the circumstances of the previous experience, when, where, how the early experience occurred, are uncertain or believed to be impossible. Well, that's the whole point of deja vu, isn't it? I mean, yes, I'm sorry, but this is double Dutch. Sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, it does my head in that they try to explain it away as being a person's problem, some kind of problem with the person. But I know that I've lived it, and I've actually spoken to the people next to me and given them the same information that I've had about the future, and then they happen. So, take that, you right. Science people. The difference between precognition or prophecy and deja vu is quite simply, there is, by definition, a shorter period of time related to deja vu, and from personal experience, as Meki and I have both got, always associated with a weird feeling which can be explained as your head or thinking is in the future, as I explained earlier. All of those who have had deja vu report an eerie sensation leading into it.
As well, as time passes, subjects may exhibit a strong recollection of having the unsettling experience of déjà vu itself, but little or no recollection of the specifics of the event or events or circumstances which were the subject of the déjà vu experience itself, the events that were being remembered.
So sometimes, just as any other non-important daily task or event, the details are lost. But what remains is the knowledge that it was real. And it is certainly very real to you when it happens.
I completely agree. Now, as a way of explanation, this may result from an overlap between the neurological systems responsible for short-term memory and those responsible for long-term memory. I don't know if you know this, but short-term memory, while you sleep, is processed into long-term memory. There's some disorders or brain injuries which don't allow that to happen. So your short-term memory can never be formed into long-term memory, and those are people that they're called goldfish memory people, right? They just wake up every morning or whatever the time span might be with a completely new blank brain. So long-term memories can't be formed. Now that results, the overlap results in memories of recent events erroneously being perceived as being in the past. One theory is that the events are stored into memory before the conscious part of the brain even receives the information and processes it. Now, I just want to quickly say something here before I go on with the official explanation. The processing of short-term to long-term memory, as far as we know, happens while you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never had déjà vu when I slept.
No.
Just saying. However, this explanation has been criticized that the brain would not be able to store information without a sensory input first, which is fair enough too, right, if you think about it. Another theory suggests the brain may process sensory input, perhaps all sensory input, as a memory in progress, and that therefore during the event itself one believes it to be a past memory.
Overlap is a good way of referring to it, as it feels like an overlap in time coming from the future. Science fiction refers to these kinds of things as time dilation or local time displacement.
Fascinating. Since déjà vu occurs in individuals with and without a medical condition, there's speculation as to how and why this phenomenon happens. Several psychoanalysts attribute déjà vu to simple fantasy or wish fulfillment, while some psychiatrists ascribe it to a mismatching in the brain that causes the brain to mistake the present for the past. Many parapsychologists, now this is parapsychologists, guys, believe it is related to a past life experience. Obviously, there's a lot more investigation that needs to be done here.
See, I just can't see it being a past life experience if it's happened in the future and then you experience it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's happened in your own future and you've experienced it again.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
That's
it's
deja vu, already seen. Links with disorders. Early researchers tried to establish a link between deja vu and serious psychopathology, such as schizophrenia, anxiety, and dissociative identity disorder, but failed to find the experience of some diagnostic value. That means they've come up with nothing. There does not seem to be a special association between deja vu and schizophrenia or any other psychiatric conditions. The strongest.
That's a relief.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I've got words stamped on my forehead, but it just says mostly harmless. The strongest pathological association of deja vu is with temporal lobe epilepsy. Reportedly, deja vu can occur just prior to temporal lobe seizure. People suffering a seizure of this kind can experience deja vu during the actual seizure activity or in the moments between convulsions. Scientists have even looked into genetics when considering deja vu. Nothing conclusive. Meki, the only thing that I read out of that is maybe people who have epilepsy drift in and out of time.
Yes.
That's the only thing I'm reading from that.
And you know what? It would explain why epilepsy happens then. I mean, if your frequency changes, and your brain can't process this, because we are fundamentally our bodies are programmed and built and designed to move forward in time, right? Mm-hmm. Clearly, okay, that's what we're doing, eyes forward. Epilepsy, and if your brain does actually move in and out of time and different spatial or dimensional parameters, it would make sense that your body sort of shuts down, right? It goes all haywire, which is exactly what epilepsy is. Mm-hmm. It goes all haywire, Right? Someone is screwing with your wiring.
So Meki, after the break, because what I'd like everyone to do is donate. Donate now.
Yes.
Push the donate button now. But after the break, we'll talk about what pharmaceutical companies have been trying to do. And it's succeeded. We'll give you some results of that. But Meki, once again, it is another thing that science, the thing I hold so dear to me, science, Meki and I, we both science, don't we?
We science a lot, all day long.
We need to look at where the origin of that term came from a YouTuber.
Yes.
My way of thinking, not so much these days though, purely because science seems to have closed the book. And it's that science labels something and then can now move on. But what is lacking is the research into why. Meki loves to say that they just label things and move on. And I agree. Maybe it's known, but not advertised. If advertised that we could all do it at will, and that is going to deja vu, then maybe the world wouldn't be as controllable by the people who prefer to play us like pawns in a world chess game. Think about it for a minute. You know, if we could do whatever we wanted, we could see the future, we could change outcomes, they'd have zero control over us. So I'm convinced after the break, you'll understand what measures they've put in place to prevent, to the greatest extent, our deja vu. And I think that's very interesting. I'm going to take the break this week, to donate $10 of my own money. I would recommend to all of our listeners today, if you're a first-time donator, please donate. Please do this for the station, not for us. We don't get a cent from it. It goes to the station to run everything. They've got a goal of $2,450. They usually reach it every single month. A month, I think, ago, Meki put $500 in of his own money. Could you please use this time just for $10, $1, I don't care. You need to put some money towards it, okay? What we're going to do is, there's the music. We'll see you after a short station break. Use the time to donate. Any questions after this?
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons. Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out, show number 187, 780 and 100, and we are talking about Deja Vu and Reincarnation. Deja Vu literally meaning, seen it before, and Reincarnation, we're gonna come back here and you can't stop us. And just on that, Dave, tell me what you did in the break.
I donated $10.
That is awesome, sir, and I'm looking at the... we have raised more than the goal this month. Thank you very much, all listeners. That is awesome. This is brilliant. You can actually see it in the chat room. This whole station is very transparent. No secrets here. Raised and goal, and we've actually managed to raise more than the goal. So wow, well done to you, listeners. Kudos, and well done to you, Dave. Thank you very much for being part of that overachievement. That's brilliant stuff. Now, having said that, don't stop donating, right? It'll kick into next month, and it's not like it's a huge amount over either, but it's good, So do keep on giving. We have a few more days left in this month, and come next week once I get paid, I will also donate some monies as well. But Dave, it's really a great station, right? I mean, Freedom Slips giving us a platform, a soapbox, as it were. Say whatever we want to talk about, whatever we want. It's just brilliant, right?
Completely, and I've been listening to the
Fabulous.
station for 4 years.
And moving along, well, we've been on here 4 years, right? So the station is about 5 years old?
That's right. I've been listening I pretty much fell into it right at the beginning, and I've been an avid listener ever since. And I recommend that we do that. This week I heard another Australian voice on here. So not only Pony and you and I, but I heard another fellow on. And since I was at home this week, ill, and I was listening in, and I sent him some messages, and he'd heard of us, Meki, and one of the reasons why he's now on the station is because he heard one of our YouTubes, went to the station as we all do, and then there he is. He's got a show. Yeah.
That is so cool.
I
Sorry,
know.
who is this?
No, I'll give you the details off air.
Okay.
But
No worries.
tremendous, absolutely tremendous. That and good on him too. And
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
You know, I think there's, I know, Meki, through the research, the result of the research that has come out, and you go through certain stages in your life, and one of those stages is you absorb everything. Another stage is you sit and stew on it, working out where you fit in all of that. Then you become active in what you've chosen to be active in. And then there's a phase where you'll just provide your opinion to everybody. And I've got my hand up on that one. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Now,
Hey.
Meki and I have always never tucked that in. We've always been doing that. We've never been shy about trying to educate people.
much to our dismay.
Much to our loss of it weighs heavily on the loss of friends and contacts
happen.
over the years.
Yeah.
But all the people that I've got like some 500 people on my Facebook that I actually know and I've talked to. I've worked with them.
That's impossible.
Not impossible. And I've worked with them. I've kept in contact. Not everyone keeps in contact, of course, but those people know me. And even the people that, you know, I post all sorts of stuff on my Facebook. And I'm always surprised by someone commenting that I haven't heard of for a while. And one of those, Meki, is a fellow I went to school with in California. Bernie, he knows who he is. And
Okay.
and he and I went to school in California at Canyon High School, if you want to look me up. And there we were. And I was just going through my yearbook one day, randomly looking up names from the yearbook who signed it, and I found him online. And I said hello, and we've been friends again ever since. And it was with a 20-year gap. And he thinks like we do, Mickey.
Wow.
That's something
That's
else,
unusual.
isn't it? Yeah. And I found more and more people do that. So I would urge our listeners to begin a conversation. Remember early on, Mickey and I we talked about this in stepping stones. So if you're talking to your friend about the weather, there's no stepping stone. You're both experiencing it. But if you're trying to tell your friend about the weather in another continent, then there's at least one stepping stone for them because it's removed from where they are. Think about the conversations you're going to have with your friends and try to limit the amount of stepping stones, because the more there are, the less likely they'll connect with it. Until, of course, you're at a David Icke conference. I'm not putting him down. And there's the lizard overlords. Okay? So I'm just putting it out there. I'm making an example, Mackie. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying, you know.
No, I'm with you. But Dave, and I know you're trying to paint the picture of the extreme fringe, right?
Exactly.
You and I
We're already there.
are much more on the fringe than Mr. Ike. So, yeah. I mean, people have picnics with lizards before they come and talk to us. I'll tell you that.
Oh, that's funny. That is so funny.
It's true too.
You're right. You're right. There's a queue. The table outside my house has lizards at it. You know,
Are they playing poker?
they're too. I'm not playing poker with them again. Now, I lost all my wages. Now, Meki, before the break, currently, if you've just tuned in, we're talking about Deja Vu and Reincarnation. That'll come later. The Deja Vu component of this, we spoke in the last hour of what the medical industry, what medical professionals and what was it, parapsychology and psychologists and the medical fraternity describe it, and science describes deja vu as pretty much some kind of problem that you have in your brain, whether the memory, the thing you're seeing, is routed via a past memory or something. None of it sounds plausible to me. Mekki and I have had our own deja vu, and we can't liken our experience to their description. They're just labeling it so they can make it go away. However, before the break, I promised that we'd talk about what did the pharmaceutical companies try to do with deja vu. And
no, this is the kicker. Yeah, go on.
This is, you'll be surprised. Because when we started to do the research on this, we were completely surprised by... I didn't even think that pharmaceutical companies would have become involved in this, but you know what? They were. Mekki, lead us into this.
So we're now going to talk about the pharmacological involvement in deja vu, as it were. Now, this is true, guys. You can look it up yourself. Certain drugs increase the chances of deja vu occurring in the user. Some pharmaceutical drugs, when taken together, have also been implicated in the cause of deja vu. Specifically, I'm going to tell you this, write it down. The drugs amantadine and phenylpropanolamine. Okay, so amantadine and phenylpropanolamine, when taken together, seem to cause deja vu. Due to the dopaminergic, like releasing dopamines, action of the drugs, and previous findings from electrode stimulation of the brain, speculations have been made that the deja vu occurs as a result of hyperdopaminergic, increase of dopamine, action in the mesial temporal areas of the brain. So let me just put this in layman terms. Increased dopamine increases the chance of deja vu. Simply put, okay? So any drug you take, even if you exercise quite a lot, which makes a lot of sense for Dave and I think, your deja vu experiences are more likely to be more frequent. Okay?
Hang on.
Dopamine is...
Hang on. So we've got the ability to see into the future ourselves.
Yes, by controlling the dopamine levels, yes. Well, it brings on the deja vu.
That's right. It gives you a connection or the ability to do it. But
that's correct.
Hang on, but wait. I'm confused. If the science community says it's just a problem with your brain, but then there's a way of being able to induce deja vu. Aha! Wait a minute.
What do you say now? What? There's no spoon?
Why would anyone want us to be able to do that?
Yes. Look, this is the kicker, right? This is the kicker. And guys, so what we have found here then, Dave, and this is your context as well that you shared with us in the last show when we did this. There seems to be a way to induce deja vu, and also probably a way to switch it off. But it also means, like Dave has just rightly pointed out, it is not a brain dysfunction. It is a chemical reaction in your brain. Or let's say the chemicals promote the reaction that your brain then, or that you perceive as being deja vu. So there's nothing wrong with your brain as such. It's only different chemical levels going up and down and promoting your feeling of having experienced something before, which you probably have. It could be, and the key here is as well. This may be just moments. So you might get deja vu in moments, and then it might be days or maybe even weeks before that you had this memory that comes back to you. So this is probably the perfect time, and I want to quickly share this with you. For me to come in. So I had a deja vu experience when I was maybe 14 or 15 years old in Germany. And it was a very inane kind of action. It was very inane. It was very, mundane even.
What were you doing when you had
Sorry?
What were you doing when you had it?
Yeah. So I was in the kitchen and I was just about to take a plate out of the cupboard. That's what it was. That's essentially it. And as I was doing that, I realized I had dreamt it before. right? So my deja vu is connected to a dream, in a way, right? But I only realized it was a dream while I had the deja vu experience while doing it. I was in my dream. I was doing it. So this is not misplaced memory. It's a remembered dream, and I knew I had the dream. Okay, I remembered when I woke up, but then I completely forgot about it. And then I was doing the action I was doing in my dream. I was doing everything in my dream, like the same scenario, the same everything. Right? It was a very vivid dream that my deja vu were linked back to. Except I didn't complete it. I didn't complete my deja vu.
Uh-oh.
So I was meant to, and like I'm lying now, I can't remember exactly what it was, but maybe I was meant to put the plate on the table, or I was meant to put the plate on the sideboard, whatever it was, I didn't do it, right? As my deja vu had said I would.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment I didn't do it, because there's no going back from that, right? At the moment you don't follow through with that action, because I thought, well, yeah, that's what and this is like, as it happened, yeah, this is what my deja vu said I was going to do. But you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do something else. And I did.
Take
I did
that,
do something
deja vu.
Yeah, that's right.
Take
You can't
that,
make me
future
do anything.
me. Yeah.
But you know, I had the other deja vu experience, but this is the only one where I didn't do what it said I would do. And as I didn't do it, there was the strangest feeling. So deja vu is a strange feeling anyway, right? You know that.
Yeah.
But then as I didn't do it, it felt almost like it was a physical jump, not like a jolt. You know, when a train changes tracks, like that kind of clock.
That's the
kind
way
of
you
feeling.
described it to me the first time we met and you had talked about it. Was it felt like you changed rails?
Yeah, exactly. And that's and I'll be honest with you. Did I change rails? Did I collapse? See, I believe in quantum mechanics. Right? Oh, well, don't have to believe it. There it is, right? No, but see, in quantum mechanics, everything or any possible outcome exists in a superposition. A superposition, essentially everything. So the cat is alive, the cat is dead, the cat is a broccoli, whatever. So all possibilities exist in the quantum form. That's superposition. Then, as you observe it, or in my case, as you go into the time, as you move down that timeline, and the event actually unfolds, all other realities and all other possibilities collapse into your reality. That's what happens. Right, so that's what you then perceive as that's your reality. You perceive it. Once it's perceived, that's what it is, and you move forward. And I think what happened, my quantum form didn't collapse to the expected reality bubble.
Mm-hmm.
My quantum form collapsed into another one, right? Whatever and I don't know. I have no idea what the implications are, Dave. I don't know if I changed something in my life for good. Maybe I'll be driving Lamborghinis now, living in Monte Carlo. I don't know.
In fact, that's what it was. Your life,
right?
By doing that, you were going to end up in Milan driving a Lamborghini Murcielago. You know.
Oh, if you only had moved the plane properly.
But you
so
felt
I don't know
it. This is the thing, Mickey.
I would like to know if anybody has acted against it. I really would like to know.
But you had the feeling.
Yeah.
That was different. That you changed something. You sort of, because of the action that you took. Did you sort of know? I'm not trying to lead the witness here, but did you sort of? Did you realize that something was going to be different? Or
well, what
did you recognize? What did you recognize occurred then?
I didn't follow the script. I decided not to follow the script because I thought, I mean, if I do remember it this way, then let's not do that. Let's do something else. And to some extent, I was thumbing my nose at the universe, if that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since then as well, and I don't think I've shared this too much in the past. I've had a lot of experiences of shift. And you can dismiss them if you want. I know some of them are real and minute. There was a paved path of stones near my brother's house which went left. But now it goes straight. I know it went left because my wife remembers it going left, but my brother's not. Always went straight. Right? So there are little things like that in my life that pop up, or the size of a rice ball. It's a Chinese little sweet, right? It's a rice paste, and inside you've got the black bean or whatever. Anyway, the point is, it's the size of it. So for years and years, I would take my bike across the bridge into Chinatown and buy these, and they were a certain size. And then some years after, all of that, and in fact, I went back again. And they were a different size, and my brother said, "No, they've always been that size." Okay, so I'm a little disconnected. It feels like sometimes I'm just bopping up and down in this quantum form now, because I've cut the original chord in some ways, in my opinion. I could be wrong, right? But it feels like and things start happening. Like, let me give you an example. This radio show, Dave, right? I mean, all these things are lining up, and maybe this put me on a path of this my thumbing my nose at the universe and not following through with the deja vu. Maybe that put me on the path of being on this radio show and being your friend, going to Australia, and now maybe looking at a political party and other things, even in my career, because my career has grown beyond all expectations, to be honest with you, right? And my expectations, at least. So. In a nutshell, that's my. And I don't think there's something wrong with my brain. Okay, none of these experiences make any sense from the explanations they've given us.
Oh, I hear you. But look, the question that I've got now, because it is, if deja vu is not a real glimpse into the future, then why would tests have been created to stimulate it? It's a good question, right? So why would they bother? Because, when pharmaceutical companies start to do research, it costs millions.
Oh, yeah.
Millions. So why all of a sudden would they have started to pour money at this, or throw money at it, today's terms, yeah? So it's got me thinking, because from what I remember them talking about was inducing it and trying to stop it. All right. So look, we've actually got a caller, because you just invited someone, Meki. If you've had an experience where you have stopped in its tracks the deja vu and done the opposite.
Yes, and go ahead, sir.
Caller, you're on the air.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Pretty good, Steve.
Listening to you, sir.
It's Steve Travesty, everybody. I don't quite have, I've had several deja vu experiences, and they're always they always feel very interesting to me, because I'm so cognizant of them that I really take pause in my mind of literally everything, and then that moment gets kind of demarcated in my mind as pay attention to this moment, even if it's really insignificant, like maybe the way I went up and got milk out of the fridge was a little bit different than I normally do it, but in that difference, it feels like it's a way I've done it before, but I know on a complete rational level that doesn't make sense. I've really never ever really done that before, but it completely feels like a memory. It feels like a memory that my rational mind knows never happened, but my body, everything in my essence, my intuition, tells me that it's a memory. Now, maybe that's a genetic memory or something that's being triggered in me in some way, shape, or form, which means maybe a past life went through this, whatever it is. And it's interesting, and I have a theory on deja vu, if I may express it.
Well, you've got the microphone. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got a talking stick, dude. Please go ahead.
You see, I think that what's happening here is in your subjective consciousness. You have your own timeline, if you will. You energetically on a quantum level as the individual consciousness, you have a set. Your energy kind of goes in a set path. Think if you've ever seen the movie Donnie Darko. You can in that Donnie gets he screws up his own destiny, and then he has the gift to kind of to see other people's timelines stretching out ahead of them and watching them follow the path, which would include also his own timeline stretching out in front of him. I believe that deja vu comes as a reset on the natural course of events, because you've done something really, really simple that's completely changed the automatic response action you were going to take, whether it's something as mundane as going to the bathroom or something as epic as deciding to take that trip to Hawaii. Something that just puts you not where your natural timeline, whether you feel it or see it or not, expected you to go. So then deja vu kicks in at that moment, and then quantifiably you've altered your subjective timeline, thus putting you on another path. And then the deja vu is you being the 0 point of a ripple effect in the quantum field. That's my theory on deja vu.
Yeah, no, I would say that's very similar to the way I feel about it. Absolutely, and in fact, it's the ripple. But I feel, I don't know if you've felt that way as well. But I feel a little. I've come loose. So I believe maybe everybody's got a world string they follow. Maybe there's like a predetermined world string, and that's our world line, right? Everybody's got a certain path of most likely probabilities as we move through life, right? That's essentially how the reality around us shapes itself. But if you do act against the deja vu, you've changed the level of probabilities that are guiding your world line, as it were, and maybe all of a sudden you're no longer flying in a spaceship, but be flying in that other, with the great improbability engine.
Yes, improbability
that
drive.
the Hitchhiker's Guide of the Galaxy had, right? That spaceship.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know exactly what you're talking about, though. And I think that's a good explanation.
It's made sense to me, especially when I'm at important moments in my life, and the deja vu isn't necessarily happening at the point of decision, but it happens somewhere early on after what is certainly what feels like a big change up in my life. One of the biggest ones I had most recently was a few weeks into a time period where I kind of got kicked out of my home, and I was kind of living from place to place, and then eventually found myself taken in by a good family in New Jersey that helped me out so I could continue to do my radio work and figure things out and work on finding myself in a new way, so on and so forth. There was just this point where I was just hanging out in the bedroom that they had set up for me, and and this is as obvious of this isn't a real memory, but feels exactly like a memory, where I just recall myself laying down in this bed this certain way at this kind of hour of the night, just kind of staring off in a direction at the corner, and the shadowing looked exactly the same as if an actual legit straight up vivid memory for that brief moment. And that was a deja vu that is impossible to be confused with an actual memory, but everything in my being said it was like a memory. And so that kind of told me that something's changed in my timeline, and I also took that as what you would call a good omen.
Do you know what? There's other different explanations for it that science talk about, and one of those is memory-based explanations. And this sort of might help everyone. The similarity between deja vu eliciting stimulus and an existing but different memory, like you're talking about, memory trace may lead to the sensation. Thus, encountering something which invokes the implicit associations of an experience or sensation that cannot be remembered may lead to deja vu. A recent study that used virtual reality technology to study reported deja vu experiences supported this idea. The virtual reality investigation suggested that similarity between a new scene's spatial layout and the layout of a previously experienced scene in memory, but which fails to be recalled, may contribute to the deja vu experience. When the previously experienced scene fails to come to mind in response to viewing the new scene, that previously experienced scene in memory can still exert an effect. That effect may be a feeling of familiarity with the new scene that is subjectively experienced as a feeling of deja vu or of having been there before despite knowing otherwise. Mickey,
What do the parapsychologists say, Dave?
some parapsychologists have advocated other interpretations of deja vu. Ian Stevenson, for example, and other researchers have written that some cases of deja vu might be explained on the basis of reincarnation. And Anthony Peake has written that deja vu experiences occur as people are living their lives not for the first time, but at least the second. I like how this,
Interestingly,
sort of ties in with the reincarnation aspect, and I can see how you connect them together.
Completely, I completely agree, and I think there may be a related phenomena there. I think rather than being direct reliving of having a life lived more than once, though, I think it is the same kind of structure these things occur in. So deja vu essentially is a glimpse potentially into the future. You know, you're reliving a moment. So, which also goes hand in hand with what we've proven already, that time and space don't exist. I don't know if you remember that show, but we have clearly proven, and this is based on both quantum physics and classical physics, spooky action at a distance, and quantum entanglement and so forth. So time and space are illusions. So if time and space are illusions, then everything therefore must be simultaneous. Right? That's probably the best way of looking at it. If we were high dimensional beings, like where the fourth dimensional space we live in, space time, is just just a poor approximation of the reality, then everything would in fact be simultaneous. And maybe these deja vu experiences are glimpses into that reality, right?
So, for instance,
for
imagine
example,
if we were living in a spaceship, what time would you use?
That's a good question.
There
That's a
wouldn't
very
be
good question.
time. Unless you're counting the time on a planet that you've left. Is it your time? Not anymore. So, Meki, there's other kinds of deja. There's deja vu, right? These are all French terms, as I mentioned earlier in the show. So we have deja vu, which is already seen. We have jamais vu.
Yep.
Which is
So it
never
wouldn't be the
seen.
shiny side out if we didn't share this with you guys, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be very thorough with these things.
Meki, describe jamais vu.
So jamais vu, which in French means never seen, is a term in psychology which is used to describe any familiar situation which is not recognized by the observer. So the exact opposite of deja vu, okay? It involves a sense of eeriness and the observer's impression of seeing the situation for the first time. Right? Despite rationally knowing that he or she has been in the situation before. Jamais vu is more commonly explained as when a person momentarily does not recognize a word, a person, or place they already know. I mean, we all have that, right? Mm-hmm. We know you might see someone's face, but you can't place them for a moment. I think jamais vu is stronger than that, though. It is also sometimes associated with certain types of aphasia, amnesia, and yet again, our old friend, epilepsy. Chris Moulin at the University of Leeds asked 95 volunteers to write out door 30 times in 60 seconds.
I've done this before.
At the international,
myself.
But the funny thing is with that, if you say a word often enough, it becomes completely nonsensical to you.
That's right.
Like,
and you can even question the spelling of it.
Yeah, absolutely, which is really an odd phenomenon. At the International Conference on Memory in Sydney sometime later, he reported that 68% of the volunteers showed symptoms of jamais vu, such as beginning to doubt that door was actually a real word. Dr. Moulin believes that a similar brain fatigue underlies a phenomenon observed in some schizophrenia patients, that a familiar person has been replaced by an imposter. Dr. Moulin suggests they could be suffering from chronic jamais vu. So schizophrenia might be no more than chronic jamais vu, and then in schizophrenia you do have a lot of paranoia. So I don't know, Dave, maybe we are schizophrenic, right?
Oh, be quiet, whoever you are. Sorry, I was playing on it. One of the other ones, Meki, there's another one called presque vu. And that's tip of the tongue. I think I've suffered from this one a lot.
Yes, sir. Tip of the tongue.
That's right. And presque vu is similar to, but distinct from, the phenomenon called tip of the tongue. A situation when someone cannot recall a familiar word or name, but with effort one eventually recalls the elusive memory. In contrast, deja vu is a feeling that the present situation has occurred before, but the details are elusive because the situation never happened before. Presque vu, on the other hand, from French meaning almost seen. Remember, we've had already seen, never seen, and this is now almost seen, is the sensation of being on the brink of an epiphany. Often very disorientating and distracting, presque vu rarely leads to an actual breakthrough. Frequently, one experienced presque vu will say that they have something on the tip, having something on the tip of my tongue.
Absolutely. And I think we've all experienced that, clearly. Right? I usually put it down to old age. No. And then the next one, which is interesting, which is Deja entendu, which literally means already heard rather than already seen, is the experience of feeling sure that one has already heard something, so an auditory recall rather than a visual recall, even though the exact details are uncertain and or were perhaps imagined.
And one of my favorites is déjà vu. Instead of déjà vu, it's déjà vu. The feeling something has happened or is happening, will happen again at some point in the future. Let me read that again. The feeling something has happened or is happening will happen again at some point in the future.
Yep.
Wow.
Now, we've this is all we have on deja vu and related phenomena. As we said earlier in the intro to the show, they are some of the pillars upon which we have built our theory. Okay, so it was important to us to share that with you yet again because it was a lost show. That, however, brings us to the much larger component of this show cycle, which is reincarnation, and we have put together for you, explanations, the history of it. We've put together a whole bunch of other things as well, personal experiences from Dave's side especially. We've put together, the deja vu from the point of view of different religions, as well as concrete cases of deja vu, which are fascinating. They really are. I mean, who would bother hoaxing this? I mean, truly, there's some kids involved here. So, but look, we let you be the judge of it. But what is reincarnation? Reincarnation, literally translated, means to re-enter the flesh. And we believe it's the mechanism by which we've been enslaved into this reality. We are forced to be born into these flesh prisons over and over again, right? And I don't think there's any higher learning that's going to help us out here. That's eventually going to let us go. This is a mechanism designed to keep us here. And the only way, and we shared this with you in the past, and the only way we believe, and not just us, but there are others, that we believe that you can actually escape this prison, which is actually your body is your prison, is to become very light. I know this sounds, sort of, new agey, and not at all.
You're not getting new agey on me, are you?
Yeah, there's precedent to that as well, and we're not the first people to say this. This has been said for thousands of years. In fact, I look, I'm not religious myself, but I will give you a quote here. It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Right? Now, what, in my opinion, what this means is, right, the more you burden yourself with earthly goods, be they physical or mental or otherwise, even relationships. And if you're Buddhist or Taoist or Hindu even, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything that burdens you in this life, that forms an attachment, a chain to this world, will keep you here. Okay, and Jesus was onto something. And again, I've got a whole different opinion as to what Jesus actually was doing, as opposed to what most people believe he was doing. But the point is that this is not a new thought. And Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism and so forth have taught this simple truth for a long, long time. Do not weigh yourself down with earthly goods. Do not weigh yourself down with earthly concerns, because you will be stuck here. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I think it's the most beautiful illustration of what I'm saying here. Ebenezer Scrooge is visited by his deceased friend, Marlowe, in the night before the three Christmas spirits visit him to warn him, they're coming and they're going to try to help you before you die like me. But Marlowe is represented as being in chains. The chains that he himself forged during his life on Earth. All the material things that are now tying down his soul, his spirit, to whatever, to this world, right? Now, they don't go into reincarnation or anything like that, but I thought it was a very nice illustration as to how you can forge chains for yourself in your life if you pay only attention to the physical rather than the metaphysical. Okay, so it's important to become light. Now, what does light mean? Light means you don't just concentrate on becoming rich and having stuff having lots of stuff. I've got stuff, and the more stuff I have, the better off I am. No, not at all. You should share more. So there's nothing wrong with having stuff, by the way. I mean, everyone needs stuff. You have to still live here, I guess, to some extent, and you can enjoy your food and all that wonderful stuff. And also, but it also teaches you. And this is the hard bit. This is the really hard part, and a lot of people will find this, I think, maybe unpalatable. But you also must curb your relationships, because you have to realize that you don't actually own anyone. Okay, they don't own you. You don't own them. This is a shared journey we're all on, right? You don't own anyone. You're not even your children, not even your spouse or your partner, your mother, your father, your sister, your siblings, brother, whatever. None of them have ownership on you, and you have no ownership on them. So you if you can help each other out, great. Okay, but a lot of people fall into the trap of making other people's problems theirs. And maybe becoming too invested in relationships, losing themselves, right? Giving up part of themselves to be in a relationship. That's not what it's about. Okay, we're all individuals. Yay, I'm not. but this was from Life of Brian. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. but the point is, yeah, there you go, right? Crickets. No, the point though is that the concept of being lighter is both the physical and the spiritual, right? So stop weighing yourself down with problems. Stop seeing everything as an issue, right? Embrace change, embrace the new. Just try to live a peaceful life, for want of a better word, right? Don't weigh yourself down with acidic emotions like hate and anger. And it's really good advice for me as well, because I'm an easily angered person, which is not a good thing. But so. This is what we mean by that, and this is why reincarnation is such a great mechanism to keep us here, because our spirits are heavy, and they just naturally gravitate toward this heavier world. I mean, this is a fairly heavy world, right? It's a low frequency world. Now, the belief in reincarnation has permeated most, if not all, of the world's cultures and civilizations throughout history. Right? And it literally means that your spirit or soul comes back after the biological death to begin a new life in a new body, and or even animal, or even inanimate object, as some people believe. This doctrine is a central tenet of the Indian religions and a belief that was held by such historic figures as Pythagoras, Plato, and Socrates, believe it or not. It is also a common belief of pagan religions such as Druidism, Spiritism, Theosophy, and Ekankar, and is found in many tribal societies around the world, in places such as Siberia, West Africa, North America, and Australia. So it is not a unique cultural phenomenon that is just, I guess that was invented in one place and never went anywhere. Although the majority of sects within the Abrahamic religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, do not believe that individuals reincarnate, particular groups within these religions do refer to reincarnation. And if you look at the apocryphal texts and some of the Nag Hammadi's rolls, you will believe that early Christians also believed in reincarnation. Ooh, he said it. Yeah, it's true. These groups include the mainstream historical and contemporary followers of the Kabbalah, the Cathars, remember those guys?
Oh, yeah.
And the Shia sects, such as the Alawi Shias and the Druze and the Rosicrucians. Now, we're going to have a show on the Cathars, I think, yet again in the future, if it's a lost cycle, that is. Otherwise, just go and listen to it again. The historical relations between these sects and the beliefs about reincarnation that were characteristic of Neoplatonism, Orphism, Hermeticism, Manichaeism, and Gnosticism of the Roman era, as well as the Indian religions, have been the subject of recent scholarly research.
Wow.
Okay, so essentially, like the connections between all of these belief systems, and I tell you, it is not a single mystery school that strings it all together, but all the mystery schools string it together, going back to, in my opinion, a common field of knowledge that was flourishing. I would say maybe 12, 15,000 years ago.
Yeah, well, there was other civilizations than ours doing this.
Brings me to Dave's very... That's right, but this brings me to your very cherished personal experience on this subject, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Look, my late mother, tremendous lady, to be honest, she practiced and was proficient in taking people back to a previous life, and she had you describe it when she took you back. In most cases, the vivid and quite detailed descriptions of the person stayed with them forever and affected their life. An odd position for me, who found it hard. I found it very difficult to come, at the time, to come to grips with something so unusual and non-fact based. That was my problem. I was so fact based in my life. If you didn't see it or touch it, it wasn't real. But when I gave in and was taken back to, as were my friends and a lot of other people that I met that I had taken back, it changed me forever as well. I was taken back to about the 1920s is when my past life was. I lived in a modest house with a housekeeper at the time, it was the Tsar at the time, who was too busy with my design of what looked like, in a blueprint, a new kind of automatic gun, like a repeating gun of some kind. And I rolled up the blueprints and I told the housekeeper that I would be a while, and I drove in a car down a hedge-lined, skinny dirt road through undulating green fields. I hope that draws a picture. That's what I saw. Until, of course, I didn't get to my destination. The only other car that I saw on my car trip in the 20s was coming the other way, and I collided with it and it with me head on. Immediately, I rose up. In those days, there was no seatbelts. I rose up in the air and I saw the scene from above. I believed myself to have passed, have been killed. I looked down and no one had survived. The right side of my car was my right side and the right side of my vehicle was severely damaged and I was injured. The odd part to this is now that I've finished my regression, the odd part of this was when I was born into this life, I couldn't sleep unless my mother held my right foot. That calmed me down. It was enabled me to fall asleep. She found this by complete accident, the calming effect of holding my right foot. Before I was taken back, I knew nothing at all of the olden day cars, any makes and models. The only thing I'd ever heard of was the Model T. Mm-hmm. And I'd seen a couple of black and white films, but they were just cars. I was too young to understand and to have a likening to something. But after I was taken back, I went straight to the library at my school and I found a book on that period's cars. And as soon as I opened the page, which was littered with vehicles of the 1920s and 30s, I saw and identified the exact vehicle that I had back then. Wow. In fact, I knew it so well that I knew how it operated. I knew how the car operated. I knew the levers inside the car. I just knew everything about it. And I have to tell you that was one of those moments in my life that I will always remember.
And just on that, Dave, I mean, look, this is for the debunkers out there and then people that are trying to naysay any of these spiritual experiences, because they are, right? This is beyond the physical. Mm-hmm. Experiences like this, like what Dave has just shared with me, Dave has nothing to gain from this.
Nothing.
He's in fact, sharing something very personal, very, very precious to him, a memory of his mother as well involved there. Now, but my point though is this: it is very difficult to explain this away, this particular experience, right? Dave has no reason to lie, right? We can take him at his word. I know Dave; he's not a lying person, right? It's just not in him, right? And he shared this with us. So and there's no way he could have known anything about this particular car until he saw it, I guess in the library. He went to see it and found it out, and there it is. So what this shows me, without any doubt, is that there is much more to this reality than we can possibly imagine, than we've ever been taught. And that's really very powerful, Dave. And I'd like to thank you for sharing that yet again with us.
Do you know, Mickey, I just want to interject here, and I think it's really important. We're coming up to the end of the show, and I just wanted to talk about this. When people are taken back by experienced, I don't know, travel guides, is that the way of putting it?
Sure.
Time guides. I don't know how you'd phrase it. Regression. I don't know. I was regressed. Now, I wasn't Cleopatra, and I wasn't some king somewhere. I wasn't a pharaoh or anything. I didn't live on the moon. I was just a person that was in a hurry to get out of the house, and I lived alone. It's now fixed, Meki, I think.
Okay.
All right. And that was it. Now I have to say, my one of, I won't name who they are, but another person who has regressed. Happy life, successful, certainly very successful at the time. Discovered that in a previous life they had died alone in a farming accident. Now, this person, it's the furthest thing from their mind. It wasn't that they went in with a varied existence of today, or they went in like I did, with absolutely no preconception of what I was to see, when it was to be. However, it was all absolutely so vivid. Now, the only thing that I haven't done is looked up. I was so convinced I didn't need to look anything else up. All I had to do was know the car. Like, think about it today. Think about the car that you drive, the one that you own, if you own a car. Think about that on a page of current vehicles within a 10-year span, and how quickly you'd identify the car that you drive on a page. That's how quickly that I identified the car that I drove. And it's even before I was driving a motor vehicle that I was taken back. I was still at school. So I have to tell you that it's very real to me, and I know our audience is probably already across it, but if you're happening on this on YouTube or through our archives, I want you to know that I'm being absolutely sincere about this, and what I saw doesn't seem to be made up by my brain, by my imagination, or I would have had no knowing of the vehicle. It would have just been a bunch of cars that I wouldn't have been able to identify with. But I knew that was the thing that would get me across the line in my belief that this happened.
Wow, yep.
So it was a very powerful experience. It's certainly something that I'll never forget. And I beg that everyone else gives it a go and has a look, but don't go in thinking you're going to be like I said, Cleopatra or the king of some country, because not everyone can be Cleopatra.
Yeah, but we're all clearly I would be Cleopatra, but just on that though, because I was looking at this myself, I can't find anyone. Do you know, and specifically in the Sydney area or in Australia? I mean, if our listeners are interested in sourcing someone who can help them out, including myself, I'd be very interested in having a regression therapy applied.
I'm in contact with the people that were in what my mum had was called a circle, and so I'm sure that if anyone in the Sydney area wanted to get in contact with someone, that I would have someone to be able to give you as a contact. Yes.
Cool.
But you know what? It's not easy. It's certainly not easy, and it'll bring feelings up that you probably haven't experienced. And if you live your life in your triangle, the shops, work, and home, or if you're a stay-at-home parent, the shops, school, and home, it can be quite confronting. I certainly, as the pacifist that I am, Meki, had to come to grips with designing an automatic weapon in that period of time. And when I looked it up, that's when they were being created. So, because, World War One didn't have automatic weapons, but World War Two did.
Whoa, there's the music. Don't forget to donate and tune in next week. We'll have a guest.
We certainly will. Damien Knott from the Australian Aliens. I love it. Documentary. We'll have him on. Take care until show 187. Comments below, by the way, on YouTube. Take care, everyone. See you next week.